The world is consuming this soap opera.
It's unseemly, it's not good for the brand, but also at the centre of it are two families. Her dad is a billionaire tycoon.
Where newspapers and websites, television channels, whatever the media, can see the revenue that story is driving, they will keep running it.
Hi everyone, Niall Paterson from the Sky News Daily Podcast. Do hope you're doing okay. Now before we get started, just want to make sure that you are subscribed to the Sky News YouTube channel so you don't miss any of our content. And if you click in the top right, you'll be able to follow the Sky News Daily Podcast so you'll always have that in your feed. Today though, we're talking about one of the great dynasties of our age, the Beckhams, and in particular, reports of an apparent rift that's developed within the family. For more than 25 years, David and Victoria have found themselves in a rather uncommon position for celebrities, relatively scandal-free and pretty much beloved by all. But the fairy tale of the footballer and the singer-turned-business mogul looks like it's crashing down to earth with a bit of a bump. Brooklyn Beckham is the couple's eldest son, and he's tried his hand at a number of creative ventures over the past few years, modelling, cooking, and a now infamous photography book. The 26-year-old is married to Nicola Peltz, sometime actress, but also the daughter of an American billionaire. But since their nuptials, there have been reports of all sorts of tensions between the newlyweds and Brooklyn's parents. Disagreements over whether Nicola would wear a dress designed by Victoria, Brooklyn and Nicola skipping David's 50th birthday, and a renewal of their wedding vows at what looked like essentially a second wedding in August at the Peltz family estate. The key point: none of the Beckhams were present. So, can the family brand overcome what some, not me I hasten to add, are calling Brexit? To find out, I spoke to a veteran PR and brand management expert. You'll be hearing from him in just a moment. But first, I thought it might be good to get a bit of history about how Brand Beckham became so powerful. To that end, I spoke to Clemmie Moodie, now assistant editor at The Sun, but a showbiz journalist her entire career. And I began by asking exactly how that brand got started.
I think all credit here must go to Victoria. You know, she's the mastermind behind this. David obviously was playing for Manchester United. He was one of the golden boys of the Alex Ferguson era. Victoria was in her pomp, a Spice Girl, posh Spice. You know, they were a marketing brand's dream. And Victoria went with another Spice Girl to watch a Man United game. They were backstage. They were in the players' lounge afterwards. David had seen her on television the night before and said, "I'm going to marry that woman." They got talking, swapped numbers that night, and the rest, as they say, is history.
And from the very beginning then, it has been the relationship that has been the basis for the brand then?
Mm-hmm. I would say arguably they were the first couple in the world to sort of become a brand in their own right, and, you know, to create this thing. And, you know, really they were the first influencers of their time. You know, they were stronger together than apart. And yeah, their raison d'etre really has been to make money, and they've done that very, very well. They went from being sports people and a pop star to, you know, a global brand that could get endorsement deals left, right and centre, magazine deals back in the day, that kind of thing.
How has this brand persisted for so long? I mean, are you surprised that they still have the cachet that they do?
I mean, they've got people around them, they've got advisors, you know, that just credit them for their determination. They've ridden various storms and got through it and come out somehow. You know, they've always reinvented themselves, and, you know, they've now got 4 kids, and they're the next sort of echelon of Brand Beckham, if you like. They're influencers in their own right, apart from Harpo, who's only 13. But the other 3 boys certainly have millions of followers on TikTok and Instagram. So they're keeping, you know, the inheritance line going strong. And they're now 50. She's 51. And they're still relevant. They still both look brilliant. And they are as relevant today, if not more so, than they were 15, 20 years ago.
Do we know just how involved they are?
Definitely they have trusted lieutenants, but, you know, they've got a team around them now that are very solid, very united in where they see things going. They've obviously got documentaries. Both, he had one 2 years ago. Victoria's got one coming out in October. But, you know, I'm sure they're not puppets, are they? They know what they want. They're very very headstrong and very much in control of their own destiny.
They wouldn't have got to where they are now, though, would they? Without, journalists like yourself being so fascinated. So when you have encountered them, I mean, how have you found them? What are they like?
What I particularly love about them is they understand the power of the press and media. They don't fight against it. They know they wouldn't be where they are without the likes of me, as much as they might find me incredibly annoying at times. Writing about them, the press have kept them on the front pages, they do drive traffic, and they know it's a symbiotic relationship, I guess. And so they get that it comes to territory. They don't generally, touch wood, fire off legal letters, and that's quite rare in this day and age. They play the game. I've had times where David and I have fallen out, and I got a call from his publicist saying I was on a train to Bath, and he said, "David's furious with something you've written. You're going to get a call, and brace yourself. He's not a happy camper." And I was like, oh, God. And I was just sitting there on this train journey with my phone, kept going in and out of tunnels. And I thought, oh, God, I'm just going to lose it. Anyway, he calmed down. He didn't ring. And this is one of my dinner party boasting stories. I now get Christmas cards every year from him and his dogs. Victoria has yet to send me a card, but he sent his own Christmas card.
Do you think that was because, ultimately these two they're genuinely nice people, or is it because they understand the rules of engagement? They understand they have to play the game a bit?
I think it's a bit of both. I don't think you can be this successful and be an arsehole. You've got to have something about you. You've got to be charismatic. You've got to be decent. I think everyone, like them or loathe them, would recognise that they're wonderful parents and really good family people. And as role models, I don't think you get anything much more important, really, than that.
The young people at the heart of this supposed spat, Nicole and, of course, Brooklyn. Well, let's start with Brooklyn. I mean, he's had an interesting life. He's certainly got a varied CV, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he's probably possibly the first Nepo baby we ever wrote about. His CV, he's tried lots of careers, bless him. I mean, I think he laughs about it himself now. He's tried to be a chef, he's tried to be a photographer. He famously wrote a book, or shot a book, and the photos were blurry and things. He's now trying to be a sort of influencer. He's doing some cooking on his videos. He, again, interestingly, is marketing himself as a brand with his wife, Nicola. I
mean, Nicola is someone that I don't know very much about. So tell me about her and how those two kind of came into each other's orbit.
Sure, they met at the Coachella Festival in 2017, I think. They both had partners, I believe, at the time, but obviously had a chemistry, stayed in touch, and then got together later. It's been a whirlwind romance. She's a 30-year-old American actress. Her sort of one big film was Transformers, which was quite a few years ago now. Her parents, her dad is a multi-billionaire tycoon. I think he's worth $2.1 billion US. He's made a lot of money, his wealth dwarfs that of the Beckhams, which seemed astonishing. So I'm sure when they met, the Beckhams were like, yeah, we don't have to worry about her being a money grabber.
Just on the Nepo baby accusation, I mean, has Brooklyn talked about that? I mean, you say he's joked about it. I mean, what else could he do, having been a footballer, a male model, a photographer, a chef, an influencer, and goodness knows what next?
Yeah, I think he would be, sort of fairly blinkered if he didn't recognise that and talk about it and make fun of it. And I don't think people would take too well to it. But yeah, of course he is. We wouldn't be talking about him now if he wasn't David and Victoria's child.
Can we talk about this rift? Now, look, I'm not in the position to speculate who ultimately knows the truth, but what we know is that David and Victoria weren't at the wedding renewal. We know that Brooklyn wasn't at the 50th birthday party. I mean, it doesn't look good. It certainly looks like there's been a breakdown in the family.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's no denying that the optics are terrible and that it's been going on, officially for 6 months now. As you say, it was David's 50th birthday, had a week-long celebration. Brooklyn and Nicola weren't present at a single thing. It's very much a case of he says, she says. Both sides have different takes and, have different arguments as to why, the machinations behind this feud, which, it's unseemly, it's not good for the brand, but also at the centre of it are two families. And I think families across the UK will have similar situations and a lot of people will relate to it. And weirdly, for me, I think it will unite the Beckhams as a brand in this country more than ever.
What can they do to try and limit the fallout, the speculation, and, the turning up of the noses and the moving away from the brand?
I think there's one really, really obvious solution, is that somebody's got to be the bigger person and pick up the phone away from the cameras, away from the press, and talk it out and say, I'm sorry, can we try and, do something to end this? And no one's stopping any party from doing it, but for some reason they are both entrenched in their own fury and heartbreak and confusion, and no one seems to be making that first move.
Clemmie Moodie there. I also caught up with Mark Borkowski, a PR and brand management expert, a leading figure in the UK communications industry for more than 30 years. I started by asking him exactly how he would characterise Brand Beckham.
I mean, if anybody looks at it as a sort of template of how to build a dynasty, they've done a remarkable job. I mean, it's always been carefully created. I mean, it came from a place of two very famous people who evidently fell in love. One had a stellar career in sport. The other had a sort of passable career as a Spice Girl. But together, and it's always about the timing, they were on every front page of every newspaper a lot of the time. It was a sort of, golden romance. It was in some way the reincarnation of, Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton. Everybody's craved for those showbiz romances. And from that point, it pivoted, because not only did they build a brand, they looked at how that brand would develop post their careers. Victoria going into fashion, David becoming a statesman, after he went through various amazing footballing highs. And, they learnt a lot from their original sort of guru, Simon Fuller, who was the person who kept an eye on that, and they split away from that and they created it. And of course, in recent times, the skill set has been the way that they've managed social media, and above all, how they've dealt with some incredible lows, sporting lows, relationship lows. And in the background, they have a young family, and they've had mentorship from people like Elton John, who had his own battles with the fame and celebrity. And they protected a family as well to create this dynasty. Arguably the family haven't hit the heights that they have had, but they've been mindful of the poisonous atmosphere of fame and what it can do to their children.
So how tightly do they, in fact, run this? Or how close are they to those who do run the operation?
It's a multi-million-pound, billion-pound business now, and I wouldn't actually call the Beckhams A-class celebrity. They're not up there generating what Hollywood celebrity might generate, like a Tom Hanks or whatever. But they are, or a Tom Cruise, their mate. But they are significant, with celebrity power. And if you have that, you need a lot of management. You need stylists, publicists, accountants, counsel, lawyers. You've got a very big team, social media sort of people, and also deal makers. And they've built that team to maintain that brand.
So how then do they manage this rift with Brooklyn and Nicola? Or can we say at this point they have failed to do so, which is why we are now where we are?
I think anybody listening or watching this podcast would clearly understand, the travails of family life. There are millions of people going with sort of siblings who are fighting, people who've fallen out within the family structure, arguments about inheritance, family rows at Christmas that, become bigger stories. The difference here is the world is consuming this soap opera. And that is the most difficult thing for them to control, because you have, a son who has fallen in love with someone who comes from an incredibly famous and very rich background herself. And it's akin in many ways to what is happening with Harry and Meghan. There are a lot of similarities. But when you have a family rift, if you're not famous, if you're not rich, You can deal with it when you have a brand as big as the Beckhams, who are known in America, in Japan, in China, and whatever. This is a soap opera. This is a painful soap opera, and this is a painful family issue. But there is no privacy. No matter how much they want that to be private, it's not. And they're having to deal with this rogue element who are generating their own narrative that takes a story out of their control. And it must be incredibly hurtful for any mother and father to be dealing with a son who has left the fold, who wants to, fashion their own life, for want of a better expression. They're having to see people that they don't know feeding on it through social media and TikTok every day, giving an opinion. It is a horrendous time for them.
I mean, you look at when David and Victoria were the same age as Brooklyn and Nicola, and as you've been mentioning there, I mean, the one thing that was absent was social media. I suppose it is part of the feeding frenzy. It's part of the media cycle now, isn't it? Social media, so much so that pictures of Brooklyn and his wife posing at their vow renewal get poured over in the same way that we would have had to wait for a 24-hour period to get the celebrity columns in the tabloid papers in this country. I mean, it's basically just pours petrol on the conflict in real time, doesn't it?
Look, we live in an age now, and I've been a publicist, and somebody dealing with a crisis for many, many years, and I've been through different iterations. If you had the worst tabloid scandal that would happen, let's say, in the news of the world long since gone on a Sunday, it'll be chip paper. It'll have disappeared. It's not fused on the internet forever. Now things sustain. The editor now is the algorithm. And we, as the audience, react to stories with emotion. And let me tell you, no matter how famous you are, there's always going to be a group of people who don't like you. For whatever reason, they just don't like you. So it's a different world now, and that is where in Victoria and David's early days there was a certain amount of control. Publicists had the ability to spin stories to their favoured, sort of journalists and capture some idea of a narrative, but now it's out of control. And the fame is a curse because you can't escape it. And when you've got a family issue like this, when people are generating a conversation where newspapers and websites, television channels, whatever the media, can see the revenue that story is driving their way, they will keep running it. And so that has profound effects on mental health of individuals who are famous. And there's no sympathy for those people who are famous.
No.
None at all.
But so what then would be your advice to Victoria and David Beckham?
You don't throw the ball back. You don't engage. The people who are generating this story, are generating the content around the story, is Brooklyn and his wife. And I think the most important thing any mother and father and siblings would want to do is to create some sort of rapprochement, trying to create some sort of connection. So the priority must be family first, media second.
Does this rift, does it actually help Brooklyn Beckham in a way, in the sense that their eyeballs are on him in a way in which they weren't? I mean, you mentioned at the very beginning, the Beckham story is perhaps a blueprint for the building of a brand. But as you also said, they were both superstars in their own right back then. And frankly, Brooklyn isn't.
Look, we've seen it before. We've seen the struggles of, should we call, the sons and daughters and, estranged wives of sort of big families, of famous families, I should say. You're living in the shadow of your parents, and you absolutely want to have a self-determination. Look at me for what I am. Look at my values. And I think that's partly what's going on here. Is it good publicity for Brooklyn Beckham and Nicola Peltz? Look, I think the old adage is all publicity is good publicity except the obituary notice. I personally think that they should be very careful what they wish for here. There's a long-term effect, and you might actually score some early hits with sort of publicity, and it might look great that you're shoving your pictures out and you're talking about your second wedding, personal quiet. You're talking about your skill set. But as you said, what has he got to offer? What is Brooklyn Beckham brand? What is Nicola Peltz and Beckham? They're not Posh and Becks. And there's millions more influencers and personalities out there staking the claim for that sort of publicity, doing some extreme things to generate those clicks on the internet. And controversy and celebrity are two powerful drivers for those clicks. But when everything washes through in the cold light of day, when you look back at some of the decisions you've made without any strategy, without any thought, driven by your own emotion, I think you'll begin to regret it.
Thanks for watching this edition of the Sky News Daily Podcast. To hear more from me and the team, just click on that rectangle over on the other side. And if you want to hear more from Sky News, just click on that circle in the middle to subscribe to the channel.